Welcome. We're live. I decided to do the countdown to open the show, or at least 10 seconds of it. But anyway, we have a very packed show. Well, we're going to talk about some news. We'll have, and then the whole rest of the show, we'll talk about rookie running backs. Mystical Child, welcome to my Patreon, by the way, and welcome today. Let's fucking go. I totally agree. We have a great show planned. We're also planning the NFL draft show. You've seen the guest list, right?
It's loaded.
It is loaded. Yeah, we have, I'm finalizing a couple of things, but we have, I believe, over 15 guests booked at the moment. And we will be live for all of day one and day two of the NFL draft. So that will be very, very exciting. And we're going to cover all these rookies as they actually get picked. And I think we're all waiting, right? We're all waiting to see where the rookies actually land. And you will get to see my live, raw, unfiltered reactions at that time, plus all the guests. And it'll be great. There they are. How are you guys doing? We're doing great. This is the closest we've ever been to starting on time. Closest we've ever been starting on time. So we're turning over a new leaf. We will try to start on time more often. I'm not great about that. I could be better. And then Darren, glad to make it live from the Monday show, rearranged work to schedule to attend as much as I can. I appreciate that. Yeah. You don't have to do that. The show is great watching it after, but that's really nice. Would you trade Ronald Jones or James Robinson in a 22-second? Yes, right? You would do this too? Yeah. Ronald Jones and James Robinson are kind of similar value to me, so 22 seconds free. I don't like Ronald Jones. We know I don't like Ronald. Good afternoon. Oh, that's an interesting spelling of afternoon. Afternoon. I've never heard of that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's start with the news. And, obviously, we all know that the biggest news, so to speak. Yeah, welcome in. The biggest news, so to speak, was that Dwayne Haskins died this weekend in some sort of car crash on the highway. We still don't really know the exact details of how that happened or anything like that. But, honestly, it's not really important to me, the details. It's more just he died. And, it's very sad to hear about that. I mean, if you think about it, we're both very young. I mean, I'm 27. Ryan, what are you, 25? 25?
24.
24? Okay, so you're even younger than Haskins. Similar age. And, I'm a couple of years older. And it's just sad. It's sad to see him go, really. I mean, it's just so unexpected. You don't expect a 25-year-old to die like that. So it's just kind of, and, there were a lot of people who said a lot of insensitive things about that. So, I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just sad. And, it did make me think a little bit about, because he obviously was someone that I was very harsh on this show. I can't remember that I ever had a nice thing to say about Dwayne Haskins as a fantasy asset. So, that kind of makes me a little bit sad looking back. And I hope that people know that, just because I don't like someone for fantasy football doesn't mean that I don't like them as a person. I try to make it clear the distinctions. I never had any issue with Dwayne Haskins, the person. It's one thing with someone like Deshaun Watson, that I might have an issue with Deshaun Watson, the person. But typically, I don't have an issue with these players as people. They're most of them are very nice, and they're just trying to, do the best they can in their career, just like I would. So it's just sad. It kind of cast a negative light over everything for a couple of days. But there really isn't anything else to say about it. Other than that, I just felt like it would be odd if I didn't mention it. So I just talk about it for a little bit. But yeah, other than that, we can move on from Dwayne Haskins and rest in peace.
Yeah.
Hope his family's doing well.
Like you said, I just want to mention we root for all these people. We root for all these players. We want them all to get like lifetime guarantee contracts. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. We root for them. So what we say as a fantasy analyst has nothing to do with what we think of them as a player. We root for like everyone.
Yeah, and also like I'm harsh as an analyst, and I know that. And the reason I do that is because I want you guys to know how I really feel about these players as fantasy assets. I'm a fantasy analyst, so I want to be honest, and sometimes honesty is harsh. But I hope people can separate fantasy analysis from how we feel about them as people, because that comes up all the time in a variety of situations. Yeah. Well, I don't think this is Ufin.
No, that was towards his spelling.
Related to his misspelling.
Yeah, that happened before. Yeah.
Huh. Oh, at Tyler, can we be friends? You're a cool dude, and I don't have any cool friends. Sure, we can be friends. I have a lot of friends, but I always have room for more friends. But what about Ryan? Ryan will be your friend. I'm not the only one who's looking for friends. But yeah, I'll be your friend. Oh, all right, Ryan. I guess Chris doesn't know what NFL team you follow. Do you want to answer?
Oh yeah, it's the Eagles. For better or for worse, it's the Eagles.
Yes, and I will tell you that we are going to have a segment at some point during the draft show where it's going to be 3 Eagles fans and me. So yourself included. So that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that segment where we can talk about what the Eagles did or did not do in the draft. It's on night 2, so we'll have a lot to talk about by that stage.
I already think they took a W, so it is what it is.
Yeah, well, let's see what they do. They could still fuck it up. They could still fuck it up very easily.
Did you see the report about the Saints? I'll just chime that in real quick.
I did see it. And let's see what the Saints do. They want to trade up. The reporters, they want to trade up for Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. And let's see what they do about that. And yeah, Chris, I appreciate that. It's, death is a tough thing to talk about. And something, probably the only thing in life I'm really afraid of actually is dying. So I get that it's a sensitive topic and it's something difficult to talk about. Yeah, exactly. Especially so young. 25 is so young. I mean, I'm 27 and I feel like my career and I'm just starting what I want to do in my life with fantasy football. Like I've really just started that, really actually doing it in like the last 6 or 7 months. And that's 6 or 7 months and I'm 2 years older than he is. So I'm just starting out doing what I want. So yeah, I feel like I have most of my life ahead of me. And that's just sad. Good afternoon. Yeah, I spelled afternoon correctly. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I appreciate this too. I definitely know that I get a lot of attention, but I wouldn't be able to be me without all the people supporting me between DLF, Ryan, Cal, and everyone else.
Yeah, shout out those guys.
What do you think about
people?
What do you think about this? As a resident Eagles fan,
I don't think it's gonna happen. He would look fabulous for myself. You know what I mean? From a fantasy standpoint, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if
first round,
Eagles, like, is he gonna go? I mean, I don't think he's gonna go at 15 or 18 overall. I think it would be. I've seen a lot of mocks though where he falls farther than I thought. Like 50, he could still be there at 51 if ESPN analysts are to be believed. Depends on who you believe. I hear some people talking about Hall in the late first, and we're going to talk about this more later. But he is someone who has a wide range of outcomes in the NFL draft.
Yep.
And that's every running back this year.
I think the odds were greater when we had 3 firsts like 2 weeks ago.
I don't think he was ever going to go that high, though. So,
I don't think he was going to go that high either, but of course the odds are greater, or were greater with more picks.
That's true. Okay. Didn't know you were a Eagles fan. Well, now you do.
And I do. I agree with Goddard and Smith on the Dynasty teams. I wonder how Ridley Truther's doing. Calvin Ridley was this close to being an Eagle. He was this close.
I don't know if I believe that.
No, he was. I believe it.
When? In the draft or recently?
Recently.
Before, I don't know.
Before everything happened. There was talks.
Yeah, I think he's more likely to be a Brown. Saw some talk of Melvin Gordon signing in Baltimore. Where do you have J.K. Dobbins now, and where would he be if Gordon signed? So I've dropped J.K. Dobbins in my rankings. It's time for there's a problem. John Harbaugh says he's going to be ready, but then 2 weeks ago he said he's not going to be ready. So what is it going to be? Is he going to be ready, or is he not going to be ready? And you know what? There's an important thing to remember. Ignore everything everyone says. Teams talk with their mouths. I don't care about J.K. Dobbins is going to be ready. Why is Melvin Gordon visiting? Why did the general manager say that we'd love to add another running back with a significant pick in the draft? Why would they say that? They'd only say that if J.K. Dobbins was not going to be ready on time. And he's not going to be ready on time. And they're not confident in him. So John Harbaugh can lie all he wants. But if you look at the actual quotes, it said, well, there were no setbacks. We hope he's ready. We expect him to be ready. But that's not what you would say if he was really going to be ready. So he's not going to be ready. So yeah, he's dropped all the way to 12 in Dynasty for me. And he's going to continue to drop if Gordon signs there. He'll fall all the way down into the tier at that point. If Gordon signed, I'd be looking at Dobbins in comparison to like Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, and David Montgomery. And I'd be debating those players. And I might have him last of that group.
Yeah.
To be honest, I might have him last. So he would fall significantly if they actually pulled the trigger on Gordon. Just talking about it was enough to move his ranking down because they will not enter. I think what's been taken off the table is that they're going to enter the year with the current backfield. There will be an addition. If it's Melvin Gordon is the worst one possible, I think that he's who they could add that has the most left. I'm more scared of Melvin Gordon than a 4th round pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and they don't have any opposition to using 3 running backs. They don't have a problem with that. They've done it before. So I would drop him significantly. My assistant. I don't really need an assistant. Actually,
I think he's talking to him about being his assistant. I don't know.
I think he's talking about mine.
I don't know.
But I don't need an assistant. Honestly, I don't have a lot of stuff that I would pass off to an assistant. Kansas City should be taking him. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Beast Hall. This is where I said he would go. Yeah, Calvin Ridley, maybe. Oh, the recovering Ridley truther is hanging in there.
Hanging in there.
More backfield. Look, after Melvin Gordon signs, then maybe I would consider buying low on J.K. Dobbins. Just kidding on the assistant. Yeah, well, I just there are some people who are more data heavy, or would probably use an assistant more, but I don't have anything for an assistant to do. To be honest. So anyway, we talked about the last item on our news. I think we've talked about Melvin Gordon meeting with the Ravens enough, right? That was on the show sheet for news. So I don't think we have to revisit that. And then there's Gronkowski may or may not return. What about that? So what do you think the percentage chance is that he returns?
Oh, I wanted to put it at like 99 like 3 weeks ago, like as soon as Brady came back. I'll put it at like 65 right now. I still think he comes back.
Yeah, 65 sounds about right. It's definitely not 99, but
it felt like it.
Get your coffee and gold your messages. Gold. I don't know what that means. Well, I actually stopped. Hold your messages. I've actually stopped drinking as much coffee. I went from 16 to 18 cups of coffee a day, and now I get like 3. So, that's why maybe I'm not as shot out of a cannon as I used to be. But I still feel pretty energetic for someone who's cut that much caffeine out of my life. But yeah, if Gronk comes back, I think he'll be ranked as what in redraft? Where would you rank Gronk? Low end tight end 1?
Yeah, maybe mid.
Mid, but he's not mid though. Like I guess he could be, but you'd have what? You'd have Andrews and Kelsey and Kittle and Waller ahead of him. Probably, I assume probably Pitts ahead of him still, just given the possibility of a leap. So I guess that's only Hawkinson, Goddard.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's already 7.
Yeah.
But if you want to put him at 8, I don't have a problem.
8.
Yeah.
Especially,
But I'm also interested in Zach Ertz. I'm not sure Zach Ertz has less left. I think Zach Ertz actually has more left. and he looked pretty good. He actually looked better last year down the stretch. So surprisingly, so Zach Ertz is someone I might have above Gronk as well. But yeah, he'll be. Oh, and Dalton Schultz as well. Probably have above Gronk. So Gronk would fit in maybe between 10 and 12. I don't think the upside's there anymore. I think if he comes back, he's not going to be as involved as he was last year. But we'll see about that. And then we had 2 extensions. The Stephon Diggs extension, I did a video on that on this channel, so we don't have to touch on it too much, but a lot of money. He's the clear one there for years. Anything to add?
I don't think there's anything to add.
Yeah, if you're on this channel, just click on the channel button, and it'll be the second video now after this one in the recent uploads. So just check that out. It was a very short video. It was like 5 minutes. So quick, easy watch, and I talk about that and its impact on the wide receiver market in the NFL. So go ahead and watch that. It's very quick. And then last one, Brandon Cooks was extended for 2 more years, and it's essentially all guaranteed, if I read that correctly. So basically, they're going to be building around Brandon Cooks for the next 2 years.
I'm glad he finally finds like a permanent home for, you know.
Well, he can still be traded.
I know. Don't remind me.
But what do you think about Brandon Cooks? I didn't really move. This didn't move his value for me at all, really.
It didn't, but he's going to be underrated still. He always is.
Well, I like seeing money, but I don't really like an extension in Houston. So money good, Houston bad. So those kind of cancel out, and his value didn't move. It did move Nico Collins down a few spots for me, but I bet that other people moved him down more. So now might be a good time to see if you can get Nico Collins as a throw-in, because I do still like him and Brevin Jordan. Now, unfortunately, that's probably an either-or. I bet on Collins if I had to choose. It probably won't be both. It's probably an either-or. So, keep that in mind. But I do like – I think there's a good chance one of them becomes fantasy relevant. And I like the talent of both. Joel likes Irv Smith this year. That's great, but he hasn't actually produced anything. And he's coming off a massive injury. He's not going to be rated as a top 12 redraft tight end. He'll probably in redraft come in around 17, 18, 19.
I think I'll have him around 15, 16. But that's
where I had him last year, and that was before the injury. I don't know why I would have him higher.
That's fair. I mean, with the subtraction of Conklin, the Kirk extension, I'm
fair. Well, let's see what they do. They could still add another tight end in the draft.
What if we're waiting on the draft, basically.
Yeah. What if they add Trey McBride?
Well, then obviously I can't.
And we don't like Irv Smith anymore.
If I say they draft Trey McBride and they put him at 15, 16, then I'm just spewing nonsense at that point.
Yeah. They are right in the right range for Trey McBride at 46. That's like right in the right range. That's like, I do see some possibilities for Trey McBride in that area that are bad. But my favorite spot for Trey McBride, even though you'd have to wait, is still Kansas City at 50. That is where I want Trey McBride to go. Imagine learning from Travis Kelce. Trey McBride is not really ready to be a fantasy contributor anyway. I actually like the Kansas City landing spot because then he's tied to Mahomes. And we know that Mahomes can use a tight end. We have no doubt. We know he can use a tight end exceptionally. But I do worry that Trey McBride stomps on Irv Smith at 46 overall or Cole Kmet at 48 overall. I do have some concerns. Would 1.5 running back, what is this? 1.5 PPR for running back? Tell me what this means. 1.5 PPR for running backs?
Is it an extra?
I guess this must be 1.25 PPR for running back. Would that be enough to put Brees over Willis in your ranks? Probably. They're very close.
Willis goes.
Probably, but we'll talk about that debate later. Okay. In 12-team Superflex, what could I flip Cousins in either the 101 or the 103 or the 101 or 23 first for? Either other quarterbacks are Lamar, Darnold, and I guess that's Goff. Cousins and the 101? That should get you Kyler.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah. I would try. If it's Cousins and a 23 first, that's not going to get you the top guys, but Cousins and a 23 first maybe gets you Deshaun Watson, if you're fine with that, or Dak Prescott. It's not going to get you the top 6, but it could
It's
get
in that
you,
range.
it could get you those guys. Maybe it gets you. Nah, I'm not paying that for Trevor Lawrence anymore or Trey Lance.
No.
So I want, Cousins in 23 first, go for Dak or Watson. Cousins in 101, go for Kyler or Lamar.
I'd go for Lamar first, but that's preference. I know we haven't flipped.
Kyler first. Kyler you're more likely to get. Okay, we're going to talk about this later when we talk about landing spots, I'm sure, because the Jets are going to be discussed frequently. Is there a world where the Jets do not address the running back position at all this offseason? And if so, what happens now? I can answer this one with a no. There is no world in which the Jets enter next year with Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, and Tevin Coleman as their only running backs. That world does not exist. So that world doesn't exist. But they could. It's possible. It's anything from Breece Hall to signing Melvin Gordon in free agency still, or Sony Michel, to just adding another 4th rounder. I think that's the range of outcomes. But nothing is not in the range of outcomes. Do you agree with that general assessment?
With Tevin Coleman there, I agree.
Tevin Coleman is Tevin failure. He sucks. But I would predict that the Jets add a running back at 35 or 38. That's my prediction. I think that's the most likely. Then I think the second most likely is that they sign a free agent after the draft if they failed to do so. Melvin Gordon or Sony Michel would be the 2 most likely. Probably more likely Sony Michel. Eric would just hold Cousins and add Breece. I'm fine with that. What would you give on top of Mark Andrews to get Pitts?
That's a great question.
Good question. I would try. How about Mark Andrews in like an early second for Pitts?
I would try that, but I feel like the Pitts side would want a mid first.
Then I'm not doing it.
I don't think it's possible to.
If they're going to want a mid first, I'll pass. Then I'm not going to do that.
That's the ask for in these leagues. So
yeah, well then it's not happening. So I'm not going to do that. Running back premium, yeah. Right, so that's premium for running backs. Nothing. I wouldn't say nothing to add to Andrews for Pitts, but again, I'd said no first. Lamar and Cousins are fine, and Lamar was already on that team.
Lamar was on that team. I missed that. So yeah, go for Kyler. Go for Kyler.
Yeah. Move Michael Carter for Devonta Smith. Good move. I have concerns with Devonta Smith, though. Devonta Smith is going to lose value when they add somebody. So Michael Carter could lose a lot more value if they add Breece Hall. So I'd rather take my chances on Devonta Smith, who will still have some good value, whereas Michael Carter could be completely nuked. Trogdor, you still didn't spell receptions correctly. Maybe you're having a tougher day than you think, and I would suggest a nap. And maybe come back and watch the show later. No, I'm kidding. I love you. But still. Okay. So let's see here. So we've caught up on the chat, and we've completed the news. There wasn't a lot of news this week. With the draft coming, I think, we're mostly focused on that. My other running backs are Mixon and Najee, so I was hoping to upgrade at quarterback, but I would be very happy with Cousins and Breece too. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. And you're welcome. Okay.
So we have to compare the classes. That's what we're going to get into, right? We're going to start.
Yeah, let's okay, so the rest of the show is going to be about the 2022 rookie running backs. So let's start kind of by comparing this year, and we'll only do this at the top because it's hard to compare the bottom. But let's compare the top prospects this year to the top prospects the last few years. So starting with the most basic question, how many top prospects would you say there are this year?
In general, it's the big three, but I feel like it's just Breece and a tier of his own.
Yeah, I would say. So let's look at it this way. We'll forget about 2019 and earlier, because realistically, I don't know when you started really doing dynasty analysis, but the 2020 class was the first one I broke down in detail. I did a little bit with the 2019 rookie class, but this is really the third year where I've in detail broken down the rookie class. So we'll start with 2020, and then we'll move forward. So in 2020, there was the big five, right? Taylor, Swift, Dobbins, Akers, and Clyde. Clyde somehow was in the big five. Now, in context of those players, I think you would agree that as prospects, you want to do, we're pre-draft now, so let's talk pre-draft. As pre-draft, I think you would agree that all of those prospects are better than Isaiah Spiller, right? All of them are better. Yes. So the third best prospect this year is worse than the fifth best prospect in 2020. So already not great. Now, where would you rate Kenneth Walker as a prospect compared to those five?
Ooh, I don't know. I might put him behind. I think I'd put him ahead of Clyde as a prospect. I feel like I have to. I don't know.
I'd put him last. I'd put him behind all.
It's ahead of Clyde or last. I think it might be ahead of Clyde.
And where did you rank the 2020 guys as prospects pre-draft? I had it Taylor, Swift, Dobbins, Clyde, Akers last.
I had Akers and Clyde switched.
But other than that, the same?
Yes.
I was not an Akers fan pre-draft or post-draft. It took me a while to buy in on Cam Akers, by the way. Just so you know, like if you hear me talk about the players now, I did do a good amount of content before I hopped on the mic, and people didn't know what my takes were as much, but I was not an Akers fan until late in 2020. I saw he was a player I actually disliked, but that's definitely how I had those players back then. But I would put Kenneth Walker below all of them. So for me, the second best prospect in this class is worse than the fifth best prospect in the 2020 class. So this is already not off to a good start. And then what about Hall? Hall, I think we agree, is a pretty good prospect. How would you compare Hall to 2020?
Well, obviously he's behind JT.
Yeah.
But then he can start having arguments for ahead of Swift. I'd probably have him behind Swift, but ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, I'm actually exactly with you. I would have Hall behind JT, behind Swift, but ahead of Dobbins, and well ahead of Clyde and Akers. Swift was like a sterling prospect. People forget that. Swift was a great prospect, almost no warts. JT also was a very good prospect. And I would put Hall in that tier, a very, very good prospect. Not even JT wasn't a Saquon level prospect or a Zeke level prospect, but those guys were they were picked in the top 5 in the NFL draft. They were picked that high for a reason. They were better running back prospects, even if they didn't necessarily. I mean, they worked out okay, but even if they didn't rise to JT's level in some ways. But either way, I would put Hall right in there with Swift and just behind, because I don't think he has the same PPR upside that Swift does. Swift is exceptional in that area, and Hall I think is just very good. But even Hall is, still would not have been the number one in that class. So what about 2021? What about these guys versus 2021? So 2021, what did we have in 2021? We had the top guys pre-draft. We really had last year. It's good comparison because we really had a big three, right? We had another big three. We had Najee, we had Etienne, and we had Javonte. We had a big three last year, just like we allegedly had this year. What do you think about these guys versus those guys? So obviously Spiller's behind all of them. Walker?
Probably behind all of them.
Yeah, I think Walker. I'd probably rather those 2021 guys, Najee for me would have been right in the same spot that I put Hall, just probably a little bit above him as a prospect, below Swift, but above Dobbins. And then Etienne and Javonte, I would put between Dobbins and Akers and Clyde as prospects. They're very good. And I would put those ahead of Walker because I have Walker behind everyone. So yeah, and then I would put Hall in between Najee and Etienne. I think. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's an argument for having Hall above Najee.
There is. I think those two are very close. I think Hall and Najee are very comparable. They both fall in between Swift and Dobbins for me. And it's just really a question of, do you want Najee's the better prospect who played against better competition, or do you want the better age with Hall? Which is more important to you? Better prospect or better age? And it's just which way you break the tie. For me.
Yeah.
Najee is a significantly better prospect to me on prospect eval alone than Hall. It's not that close. But it's over 2 years. It's like 2.5 years of age as they're entering the NFL. But yeah, just so if you're hearing what I'm saying, essentially this class outside of Hall is weak. You know, Walker would have been the RB6 in 2021, the RB4 in 2020, or the RB6 in 2020, the RB4 in 2021. And Isaiah Spiller, I'm not sure that Isaiah Spiller is a better prospect than like Trey Sermon. Yeah, we missed on him, but I'm not sure he's a better prospect than Trey Sermon was last year. To be honest, I'm not sure that Isaiah Spiller is a better prospect than AJ Dillon was in 2020. It's ugly. So this is a weak class at the top. Very weak. And then what about next year with Bijan? I assume Bijan is a better prospect than Hall by a lot, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he clears most of the field.
Yeah. And I think that there could be multiple Hall level prospects next year.
Gibbs, Evans.
Yeah, I don't think that Kenneth Walker would be I think that'll be like 2020 where Kenneth Walker would not be a top 5 running back in next year's class. So this class is weak. Outside of Hall, who is really, and we're about to talk about him, Hall really is a good prospect. He's a good prospect. I don't think people should I've often said I hate this class except Breece Hall. And we'll get more into that. But I would not let the hate on this class infect your opinion of Breece Hall, but let it affect your opinion of everyone else. Because I really do dislike this class. When we talk about Breece Hall, we're going to talk about the one player in this class that I really like at value. I didn't have much nice to say about the quarterbacks and tight ends last week, and I'm not going to have a lot nice to say about the other running backs other than Hall this week. Let's see. I think we talked about this a little bit. I said I would drop Dobbins significantly. About a round of value drop, if that happens. Are you trading Lamar straight up for Watson? No. I'll just keep Lamar. I don't want to start with that. I don't know when. There are still things with Deshaun Watson. It's not worth it. I'll just keep Lamar. Assume that's fine.
Yeah.
I'd rather keep Lamar. What do you think about this? You're the Eagles fan. You might know more about this than me because I haven't heard this. He's hearing Chris is hearing that Devonta Smith bulked up a bit. Still has hurt tossing him the ball, so I'm still cautious. Do you care?
I mean, it's going to be CJ Stroud or Bryce Young next year, so
you're more confident about that than I am.
I'm very confident in that one, but that move for the 23 first signaled all I needed to know. I've been preaching that one for I don't know how long, but
no, I'm with you, but I still have concerns about Devonta Smith. Thank you, Ed. I'm personally trying to pivot on Dobbins. Tyler said he was worried weeks ago. I did say it weeks ago. And I mostly ignored him. Now I'm now worried on him in the short term. Yeah, well, here we are. Yeah, I would try to get out. But once the Gordon news came down, it became hard to get out, I would say. Okay, so that was our intro to the class. And then the one thing I wanted to do was I'm going to put this link in the chat, and then I'll put it probably again at the end of the video. And there's the link on the screen. If you click on that link, you'll see that I have a bunch of articles that I've written about this rookie class, and we're going to talk about some of them. About running backs recently, I wrote, let's see. So I wrote a combine breakdown, which I didn't even mention, but I wrote a combine breakdown of the running backs. So I talked about a few in there. And then I talked about Isaiah. I did an article on Isaiah Spiller, Kyron Williams, let's see, Brian Robinson, and Tyler Algier that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about those articles as we talk about them today, but you can find all of them at that link, which is my author profile. And there it is again, my author profile for Dynasty League Football. And I do still write. I'm a little less focused on writing than I was. I'm more focused on the Patreon and this show, my shows, than I used to be. A little bit less on writing because the Patreon has just grown so big. It's really that's taking up so much more of my time. And if you haven't joined it yet, I would definitely check out at least the $5 a month tier. Join the Discord, see if you like it. Then if you want to upgrade, go for it. If you want to cancel after a couple of months because you didn't like it, all good. Just go back to being a regular follower. Doesn't bother me, but I always encourage just $5 a month to give it a try and see if you like it. And I have now pretty much weekly, I have Patreon only question shows. So if you want your questions answered secretly, you can ask them there on my Patreon. How do you pivot off Dobbins? What targets? Good question. How would you pivot off Dobbins?
I mean, can you even, like you said, after the Melvin Gordon news? I mean, you could take a risk. You could take a risk with someone like Gibson, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Gibson than Dobbins at this point.
I agree.
How about this? This is kind of a weird trade, but what if you traded Dobbins and a 23 second for Amon-Ra and a 23 first?
I'd be here for that.
Yeah, try something like that and get back to me.
But you know how I value 23 firsts, but so does everybody.
Not everybody.
Not everybody?
Our little bubble does, but not everybody. Not everybody. That's the thing we have to remember. Not everybody. What's up, guys? Oh, FF Lefty, welcome. What's up, guys? I know tight end is weak as fuck this year, but where would you take a guy like Trey McBride in a heavy tight end premium format? Double or triple? I've never heard of a triple. Triple's a lot. Well, if it's a triple, right now I have Trey McBride on the Dynasty rank, on the rookie ranks I just updated. In Superflex tight end premium, I have him at 20th overall, and in 1QB non-tight end premium, I also have him 20th overall. So we're looking at 208 there. If it's triple, I'll take him like 15 or so.
Oh yeah, I'd take him like 13, 14, maybe even back into the first and triple.
I don't think I'm spending a first round pick on Trey McBride unless it's a 2 tight end format. And even then, maybe not. I'm fine just having garbage in there because tight ends don't score that much and just dealing with it. It's not like, remember, 2 tight end and 2 quarterback are not the same. In both, you have scarcity, but the problem with quarterback is if you don't have it, someone else is putting up 20 and you're putting up like 10, whereas in 2 tight end, yeah, maybe they're putting up 8. You can overcome a weakness at the tight end 2 spot in 2 tight end. So you don't have to go as crazy for them. You can just suffer in 2 tight end, whereas in Superflex or 2QB, I would not recommend suffering. But I strongly dislike 2 tight end leagues. I would not recommend them. I don't think they're fun. Recovering Ridley Truther. I love this. It's going to be recovering Ridley Truther for a while, I think. I was able to get Dylan and 110 for Dobbins and a late third after the Melvin Gordon news. Not amazing, but I was happy with it. I'd rather have gotten a pick next year. This is not exciting to me. If it's a super flex, it's better because you might be able to get a quarterback at value at 110. But I'm not jumping for joy over this.
No. Especially with how startups have been going that I've been in recently, I think you get more value.
I'm not overly excited. Dobbins for Josh Jacobs plus. Jacobs is insanely undervalued, less so recently, and they are born in the same year. They're 10 months apart, so not giving up too much age. I'd consider this. I tried with Fournette, Gibson. I wouldn't give Fournette and Gibson for Dobbins. And yeah, I know I agree with Eric's suggestion. Jacobs plus for Dobbins is a good move to move off of him. But anyway, let's so I put up my articles on the screen. So let's start. We'll spend more time on the more relevant players, and then we'll go faster as we get into less relevant players. So let's start. You want to start at the top?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm dealing with internet issues over here. I know it looks fine because my upload speed's fine, but my download speed is atrocious right now.
Oh.
Shout out my service provider. But anyway.
What service provider do you have?
A local one.
Oh, okay.
I don't have like FiOS or anything available in my area or anything like that. So like my internet's garbage. But
I'm gonna put them on blast.
But I do that enough in my spare time. So let's start with Breece Hall. I mean, I think with how I set up the show sheet, like with my contributions to it, I think we know what kind of player Breece Hall is. I went more into like the question marks with Breece Hall, and then I went more into the type of player with the players later, like the James Cooks, the Tyler Algiers, the Brian Robinsons, the Kyron Williams. Like, I feel like people need to get more,
information
on them than they do on Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker or Isaiah Spiller. So I think we need to ask like the tough questions here with these guys. So first off, I had to put it in the show sheet. Is Breece Hall a JT level prospect or close? Or are we suffering from prospect fatigue? We are this close to the draft.
I think we're suffering from a little bit of prospect fatigue, but he's not a bad prospect. He is not far off. But yeah, I would say not as good as JT.
I agree, but like I feel like some people are talking him down a little too much.
Let me put it this way with Breece Hall. I think it's pretty clear that barring an excellent landing spot, Breece Hall, I know where Breece Hall is going to rank in my Dynasty rankings. He's going to come in at RB6. And, because there's a wide gulf in my Dynasty rankings between Christian McCaffrey and Joe Mixon. There's a lot of space in there. And I would expect him to rank in between them. Now, if he gets a really good landing spot, he could be above Christian McCaffrey. But, I don't know where that landing spot is going to be. It would probably have to be in the first round. And if he goes 25 to Buffalo, then maybe I'll have him as a first round startup pick. But, otherwise I'm not. And I had Najee as a first round startup pick last year, and I was right about that. That was fine. That went well. So no issue with that. But yeah, there isn't much to say about Breece Hall. We know he's good. We know it's all there. Really, I mean, the second question we had here is Breece Hall the runaway 101 and 1 QB, and is there an argument for 101 in Superflex? It's really the only important question with Breece Hall.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say, yeah, he's the runaway 101 and 1 QB. And in Superflex, I think it depends more on Malik Willis's landing spot than Breece Hall's.
Yep. I don't know if we have a good idea on Malik Willis's landing spot yet. There's been stuff floating around.
The most recent mock I saw had him to the Lions, like we've been saying all the time. So
I've been hearing that. I don't think it gets past 6. So like, it's how much you value him in Carolina, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Elijah Mitchell plus for Dobbins. I'd love that. I'm good with that. What do you guys use on the draft capital to determine how good a prospect is? Do you rely heavily on college production? Yeah. I mean, I rely heavily on college production. I rely on how well they tested at the combine. I do occasionally watch film. You can take it or leave it with how good my film knowledge is. But yeah, I mean, I just try my best, really. Mm-hmm. Traded Kupp and Winston for Tyreek Hill in the 103. I'll take Tyreek Hill in the 103.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I'd like to move up or down from that 103 spot, though.
Me too. I don't actually want to pick there.
Up one or down a couple.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to say about Breece Hall? I feel like we've talked about Breece Hall enough. I think people know that what Breece Hall is. People
know what Breece Hall is. They know he's an elite athlete. They know he puts up all the stats in college. Like, it's just his landing spot. Where's he gonna go? What pick he's gonna go with? Like,
that's a good question. I mean, what do you think? So let's just talk about what you think his ceiling and floor are. So what's the highest you think he could go?
The highest, like I said, I would have said Eagles a little bit ago, but now I really want to say Buffalo at 25.
Yeah, I do think Buffalo at 25 is his ceiling. And you want to know something funny? I actually think Buffalo at 57 is his floor. I don't think I'm going to pass on him at 57.
I think his floor might be higher than that, but I don't know whether to believe
it was mocked in the mock draft I saw today. So
I know
that is his floor.
I really just want to say to the Jets in round 2 with 35 or 38.
I feel like, agree, but I've seen too much about it.
It's how the NFL community values him, because I mean, Houston could also take him in the second round.
Yeah,
they have 2 firsts.
I mean, we'll see, but I'm really hoping he goes 25 to Buffalo.
I think that's the dream at this point.
Yeah. What do you think I get for Derrick Henry right now? Elijah Mitchell has been someone that's been mentioned to me. I think you get Elijah Mitchell plus for Henry, and I would absolutely do it.
Yeah, this is one. This is.
Oh, it's almost like you could see.
Jacob, are you reading off our show sheet?
Yeah, well, let's just move on then. Let's move on to the show sheet.
Yeah. So I've had this discussion with a lot of people recently, because I feel like everyone's like, yeah, Breece Hall is good, but we need to evaluate after Breece Hall, because not all of us have the 101 and 1 QB or the 102 in Superflex, you know? So we have to talk about these other running backs, and this is a fantastic question because the college production was not there.
No, it wasn't there. It got better in the last year, though. And I did write about Kenneth Walker like a while ago. I wrote about him in an early rookie preview article, and then I wrote a little bit about a combine breakdown where he did run the 40 and 4.38. So, I thought he had a pretty good combine, and he was a pretty big riser. So, but yeah, I do know that the receptions are not there.
They are not. So, thinking of landing spots, there's a couple teams that need a running back that could use him as like a 2-down kind of back. The Jets.
Yeah. No, I have mocked Kenneth Walker to the Jets many times with the idea that Breece Hall was already gone at that point.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking that it's actually more likely, unfortunately, that Breece Hall is not gone and that Breece Hall goes to the Jets, and that leaves Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker might go a little bit later than we were thinking. I could easily see Hall to the Jets at 35 and then Walker to Houston at 37. And that would give him an opportunity to get a lot of carries. But
yeah,
I just hope he doesn't go somewhere bad. Like, there are some spots that would not be ideal.
How do you feel about Atlanta for Kenneth Walker with Cordell Patterson?
That kind of fits well, but then we're going to lean into him not getting receptions.
The way this is set up, the way the draft order is set up and the running back needs, I feel like this narrative is going to get extremely leaned into no matter where he goes.
That's probably true. I'm more worried that Kenneth Walker ends up somewhere we don't want. Like, I mean, I can't imagine that they would do this, but you never know. Like, he could go somewhere like Chicago with Montgomery on the last year of his deal, or Philadelphia would actually be fine. I would hate that less. But there are some other spots that are not great. I mean, he could be the one ending up in Buffalo, which would be good. So,
anyone in Buffalo is good at this point.
But, I don't... There could always be
Here's another low-key one that I was heard mentioned that would... I don't know what it would do for fantasy, but what about the Chargers with Austin Eckler getting up there? I know we got a new contract recently.
Well, where do the Chargers pick, though? Like, the Chargers don't have a pick in the second round.
They gave up their second round pick. That's my bad.
So I don't think that Kenneth Walker is going to be available to them.
He's not. That's my bad. Maybe they're in a...
What about New Orleans?
Yeah, there we go. They're in... Chargers are in territory for someone we're going to talk about later, probably.
Yeah, I mean, there's always Kansas City. But, yeah, I think that at this point, with Kenneth Walker, right now, I think he's the 102, behind Breece Hall. But that is not a guarantee. That's not a guarantee. If the landing spot is bad or he falls farther in the draft than I want him to, there's no guarantee that I'm going to keep him there.
I disagree at this point, but
well, all right. Let me put it this way then. What if I'm going to try to make the wide receiver? It's hard to find a good landing spot for a wide receiver with also good draft capital, right? There actually aren't any. But I don't know. What's the best case scenario? Actually, all the scenarios are not that great. The teams picking early in the draft are not good wide receiver landing spots. It's kind of telling that the Jets might be the best one.
Every mock I've done Drake London to the Jets at 10. I think it's going to happen. I think it might be a lock at this point. I want to lock in the Jets.
The Jets at 4 is actually starting to pick up some steam. What about that?
Wow.
But we'll see. Kenneth Walker to me is not locked in because there are some bad things that could happen, but he's the favorite to be the 102 in 1 QB. But I'm not willing to say it's a lock like I am with.
There's a group.
With Breece Hall, I'm just not going to change my mind, no matter what. I'm going to stick with him as the 101. It doesn't matter what the draft. He's multiple tiers ahead of all the other running backs in the class, and there's no good receiver. And we'll talk about the receivers. I don't have a tier 1 receiver in this class. I don't have a tier 1 receiver in this class. I don't think this class has a tier 1 receiver. Whereas like last year had 1 tier 1 receiver.
That worked out pretty well.
It worked out well for him. But there was 1 tier 1 receiver last year and a lot of tier 2 wide receivers. This year, there's like 3 tier 2 wide receivers and then a boatload of tier 3 and 4 wide receivers.
The receiver class is deep. We're going to have a lot of talking to do next week.
Next week will be a lot, yeah. But yeah, Kenneth Walker for me right now is the 102, but I have Walker, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, I guess, but he's not going to get the draft capital I want, and Drake London as all in the same tier. And in DLF's ADP, they all come in within a pick of each other. So that's the next 4 for most people, and I have them all in the same tier. So he'll be the RB2. I won't budge on him versus Spiller.
I won't budge on him versus Spiller, but I might budge on him versus London, Burks, or like you said, Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, I feel like in this class, Breece Hall is a tier 1 prospect. Kenneth Walker, there's no tier 2 prospects. Guys like, I don't know who a tier 2 prospect is, but like
I know we've been spoiled with the tier 1s.
Well, no, like last year we had Najee Harris, tier 1 prospect, and we had 2 tier 2 prospects in ETN and Javonte. Whereas this year, I don't think we have a tier 2 prospect. I think Walker is a tier 3 prospect. And Isaiah Spiller, I think, is a tier 4 prospect. And we might have a bunch. And then we have a lot of the running backs are bad. But yeah, I don't have Walker and Isaiah Spiller in the same tier. So unless it's really extreme, and also there's no way Isaiah Spiller is going to go above Kenneth Walker in the draft. That seems highly unlikely. So I can't imagine that I budge on Kenneth Walker as the RB2. Let's look at some of these questions in the chat, and then we'll move on from Kenneth Walker to Isaiah Spiller. So Kyler 101 and Muth, Pat Fryermuth, or Tua 103 and JT. Ooh,
this is
brutal. It's the what? Huh?
Give me the quarterback.
I'll take the. I can't even decide here. I'll take the JT side. But get it.
It's close. I think it's more Kyler and JT kind of cancel out.
Kinda, but I think I'd rather have Tua and the 103 over the 101.
That's where it's kind of hard for me.
Yeah, it's very close. This is a good offer.
It's a good offer. Tight end premium might sway it one way or another.
That might help. Yeah, I got offered Mitchell and Sermon for Henry, Chris Evans, and Cedric Wilson. I guess I'll take Mitchell and Sermon, but
I think you get better for Derrick Henry closer to the season.
Derrick Henry than that.
Closer to the season. Wait it out.
This is very, very good. Just because you haven't done something doesn't mean you're not capable, but your employer doesn't necessarily care if you can. Yeah, I mean, Kenneth Walker's comparables are not good, but he's the clear RB2 in this class because everyone else is so horrible. So my nice things to say will end with Kenneth Walker. I have nothing nice to say about the rest of the running backs in this class. So that's the only reason he's the clear RB2. It's not that he's a great prospect. Do you see a scenario that Kenneth Walker becomes Derrick Henry's successor and goes to the Titans? No, because the Titans don't have their second round pick. So, and the Titans are not going to pick him at 26. So no scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen. I don't know if have you looked into Kenneth Walker's comps?
Yeah, they're terrible. That's what I was just saying.
It's shout out Dynasty, but there's been 4 running backs to go within the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft and never have a season of even 5% receiving yard market share. Beanie Wells, Derrick Henry, who's the exception to the rule because he's an athletic freak.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders and Ronald Jones.
Sure, but how many of them ran a 4.38?
That's true.
How many of them have the breakaway speed that Kenneth Walker does? None of them do. That's the difference between him and the other players.
That is true. But like I'm saying, they're not good comps because Derrick Henry is obviously an outlier.
No, his comps suck. So he would have to be, he would have to be a little different. What would it take for you to trade away the Superflex 101? Is 106 and 23 first enough? I would say that is very close. I'd like it to be 105, but that's like right on the line. I'd say it's not quite enough.
Thinking about it in my head, I'd say I want the 105 too to grab one of those decent wide receivers.
It's not quite enough for me. I want more.
If the QBs don't get draft capital, I feel like that tier break is coming at 105, 106.
Risk, yeah. So I'll take the 101, barely. I think, Jacob, I think things are being conflated. The reason that Kenneth Walker is the clear RB2 is because everyone else in this class absolutely sucks, not because he's that great. That's what I just told you about. A lot of problems with Kenneth Walker. I have a lot of problems. I mean, the comps are awful. The receiving production is not there, but everyone else in this class is so bad that it is what it is. There has to be an RB2 in this class. You rank the RBs you have to rank. You rank them, the ones you have. So I have to have somebody at RB2. Everyone else just sucks. So sorry, but he's going to be the RB2 in this class, even though he's not very good. I mean, I did say that I would have had him the RB6 in 2020, the RB4 in 2021, and he's not going to be a top 5, would not be a top 5 RB in next year's class. So he's not very good, but you compete against the players you have to compete against. Yeah, I agree with this, that they usually get some work in college, and it is a concern.
I remember when we were doing that about JT. Do you remember that 2 years ago?
His receiving production was better.
JT was different, but
his receiving production was better, though. Yeah, he can catch, but who knows? Spiller is the biggest chop in the draft. Yeah, I mean, I watched his film. We'll get to Spiller's film when what I saw, and I'll tell you what I think. Someone offered me DK for Juju 103, 203, and 303. I think it's too expensive. I will take. Kind of still want DK, honestly.
I do too, especially this is a 1 QB.
Yeah, if it's a 1 QB, I really want DK.
Superflex, I'd still lean DK. If it was 102, I'd probably think twice.
Yeah.
I want one of those top 2 guys, honestly.
I agree. 105, Dak and Tony, or is 1 QB, or Devonta Bateman and Shark. I'll take. I'd rather have Tony over Chark. This is close. I'll take the Dak side.
I'll take the other side. I'll go Bateman and Smith.
I have a bad feeling.
That's fair.
It's like comparing failure to big failure. Yeah. Well, they haven't failed yet. They haven't played in the NFL yet, so they can't be failure. Okay. So I think we're done with Kenneth Walker. What about Isaiah Spiller?
I mean, the first thing we have to bring up is, are we concerned about his athletic testing? You could go into this because I didn't expand much on this in the show sheet because I know you have an article. I tried.
Yeah, a couple of articles. So I talked about it in my combine breakdown where I talked about how he did not run the 40-yard dash because he would be very slow, and that's not good. And then he finished last in the broad jump event. Very, very unathletic. So I don't want to hear about that. So he's falling down the board for those performances. And then I wrote a whole article about him where I talked about how he was consistent, but kind of meh. And then I did watch some film, and I thought the film was actually pretty good. He actually looked pretty electric. He didn't look small either, but unfortunately, his statistics and his measurables are not as good as the film. And I think that I have film as the least important. So I'm not in on Isaiah Spiller.
I'm not in either, but I remember catching myself watching some A&M games like the past 2 years. I'm like, wow, this dude's going to be drafted pretty highly. Like, because he was electric on the field. The tape, there's a lot of guys in here where the tape is better than the measurables.
Yeah, or the numbers.
Yeah, or the numbers.
Is Tannehill worth a 23 first? No. I would say no. Let someone else draft Spiller. That's probably going to be my strategy. So with Isaiah Spiller, in the article, I talked about how the film was actually not so bad. But are we concerned about his athletic testing? Yes. And then we already talked about Walker. So with Isaiah Spiller, I assume that you're kind of with me and man.
Oh no. Oh no.
As fast as Spiller, that's savage. I assume you're kind of with me in that you're not going to have any Isaiah Spiller. I'm not going to have Isaiah Spiller either.
If he goes on day 2, he'll be drafted around, depending on where the quarterbacks go in Superflex, that 106, 107 range. Just let me take one of the wide receivers that I know will probably give me production in the pros.
Well, let me ask you this. So is there any universe in which Isaiah Spiller won't be your RB3 in this class?
I thought about it. I was having a talk last night with my buddies. I'm like, these not two next guys. We're going to have a disagreement on the one, at least what I saw in film, but maybe Rachaad White could jump him with draft capital.
Yeah, I'm pretty locked in. The only way that Isaiah Spiller will be my RB3 in this class, unless he's not drafted on day 2 at all. And if he's not drafted on day 2 at all, then all bets are off. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I do listen to Ray G's show. He's falling down.
Yeah, but he did look like the RB1 on his tape.
He was. And then
he looked like it, and
now he's not.
Exactly. Things happen. It wasn't.
Isaiah Spiller's not even a lock to be drafted on day 2. I've seen mocks with him in round 4. So
I'm just kind of saying that it wasn't bad analysis at the time. It was good analysis at the time, and things change, obviously.
Yeah, it wasn't bad analysis, but
not at all.
I have Spiller at the 2nd overall player in this class at first, just behind Hall. But things have changed. But for me, I'd find it hard to believe that I wouldn't draft Isaiah Spiller at running back 3. But I'm still not going to have a lot of Isaiah Spiller because I have Isaiah Spiller behind at this point. I have him behind Wilson, Burks, London, and Jamison Williams. And it's very possible he could end up behind Olave, Pickens, and Dotson if they get good landing spot. If they are first round draft capital.
I have him already behind those 3. So
you already have him even lower than me.
I'm also higher on those 3 than consensus because I feel like Olave is going to get a good spot, and I really like the film for Dotson and Pickens. So
this is
a good comment.
This is Rachaad White, not Isaiah Spiller.
Oh, we might.
Yeah, we're going to disagree. But you're right. This player does exist. It's Rachaad White. We're going to get to him. He is not good. Okay, but other than that, for me, and that's part of why, since I do not like Rachaad White at all, that Isaiah Spiller is going to be locked in as my RB3 in this class, assuming he gets drafted on day 2. If he falls to day 3, then I'm just going to be completely out. But I want to take a shot on those receivers. I'm just, as much as I dislike, I don't love the receivers in this class. I said Isaiah Spiller was like a tier 4 prospect for me. So I'd rather take a chance on a receiver over that.
Or a quarterback. You never know.
Or a quarterback.
These quarterbacks have been rising as of late. So
yeah, that's true. I'll probably take a chance on any first round drafted quarterback in Superflex over Isaiah Spiller.
I mean, Ritter seems like a lock to go first round, but let's get back to running backs. I mean,
Lock. I don't know if he's a lock.
He's been rising up the board.
Yeah, the eyeball test does only go so far.
It does. I think we're gonna have a bigger disagreement on the next two.
Do you really want to answer to this, BJ? It's Breece Hall. That's the only player I think is very good. Everyone else is not. So, 2. I mean, we've already heard me trash every quarterback in this class. I basically said everyone outside of Trey McBride was completely worthless, and even he wasn't all that great. And then now I've already trashed the RB2 and RB3 in this class and said that they're terrible compared to the RB2 and RB3 in almost any other year. So far, the only player I've really said that I like is Breece Hall. We're going to get to a couple of wide receivers that maybe I'll have some nice things to say about. But so far, we're not doing so well. Chase or Jefferson as the wide receiver 1 in a startup?
Flip a coin.
I'll take Chase.
I've Chase, but flip a coin.
I'll take Chase. Yeah, I would. 1-1's going to be Breece and a 1 QB. Okay, so we talked enough about Isaiah Spiller. We don't like him. You just like him even more than I do.
Yeah.
But we won't be picking much of him, probably.
No, the wide receiver depth is just there. It's not amazing, but it's solid, and there's going to be players that produce.
Yeah. So let's go through we're going to go through the rest of the guys a little bit quicker. But so these players, we're going to read them in the order I have them ranked, which you might not guess based on what I'm going to say about them. But let's move on to the next player.
Yeah. So next up, we have Rachaad White out of Arizona State. I'm interested to hear your thoughts first. I feel like we might disagree.
Not good. Already 23. I mean, why is he going to be good? You tell me, what does he bring to the table? What is so great? What is so great about him? Because I don't see that. I don't see anything great. I see boring.
Well, first off, I'll just dive deeper into his concerns a little bit. His pass pro. When I turn on the tape, it's iffy. It's not the worst in the class, but it is by far not the best.
Yeah, somehow, despite the fact that he's already 23, he still didn't learn that. He had many years in college to improve. So why is it going to get better now?
The age is a problem. He has a decent receiving profile. He's a plus athlete. He 22 miles an hour on the GPS tracking system, which
something like that.
It's better than testing.
He wasn't that fast. I mean, he wasn't as fast as Hall or Walker at the combine.
No, I didn't expect him to be.
That's true. But, he really only has one. This is the worst thing. He has 1 year of production at 22. He's older than everyone else, and then he dominates. 1 year of production. Where's the rest of it?
See, I feel like
it took him back an advantage over everyone else, and then he was able to do something. Not good.
I understand that concern, and I understand how Joe Burrow changed that mindset a little bit. That's a different position. Joe Burrow is, like I've been saying all show, another outlier.
Joe Burrow is a huge outlier. Joe Burrow is an outlier. He is one of the biggest outliers, actually, for that, breaking that production model. But usually, who was the last running back who only had 1 good year? Let's see. Keyshawn Vaughn. 1 good year. 1 good year when he's old against everyone else. Another running back. Let's think of another one who else do we know recently who had 1 good year against, a slightly different competition. I mean, there's also the Trey Sermon transfer story. Couldn't beat out the other player, but there's a lot of these. There's a lot of these that don't work out. Keyshawn Vaughn is the big one.
That's fair. I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. I'm betting on the plus receiving profile and the plus athlete. in this draft class, if I was flashback to last year, he'd be a late second rounder in rookie drafts, not the actual NFL draft, rookie drafts. Yeah. He'd be a late second. In this one, I'm willing to flip the coin, like I just said, and just take a chance.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want to. I'm not impressed. I mean, he came in as a transfer at 21 years old, a transfer after playing college for years at other colleges, and he played in 4 games. Like, why didn't he? I mean, maybe they were injured. I don't even know why he didn't play in as many games, but, that's it. Like, all the production's in the last year.
See, this is one of those things where you just said it. I like him more than the other running backs behind him, but I'm gonna have.
But so do I. As RB4 also, he's just terrible.
I'm gonna have a lot of the wide receivers over him. I like him more than you do, but I like the wide receivers still more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have Rachaad White and Isaiah Spiller closer than I do.
Yeah. There's someone I want to see get day 2 capital. I'm going to put him over both of them. I think it's pretty clear who it is by what I wrote in the show sheet.
Yeah.
It's definitely really clear.
Rachaad White, though, is completely dependent on draft capital. If he doesn't get drafted on day 2, then just forget it.
I agree with that one.
Yeah, he has no. Give me Jameson Williams or Spiller all day, absolutely. So RB class got gross real fast. Yeah, I got gross after Breece Hall. Absolutely. Yeah, it's terrible RB class. Terrible. They're terrible. People lie to you. They'll say it's good. It's not good. It's not good. They're just trying to promote their content because people don't want to watch the content. Who wants to watch content? And who wants to really? People worry about this. Or is someone going to want to watch my content if I say everything is bad? If I say everything is bad, are people still going to tune in? But then what do you want me to do? Lie and say everything's good? It's not. So I'm not going to do that. And we talked about this last week, and here we are. Again, same thing. Yeah, who plummeted this year? Ryan Tannehill? Is that what we're talking about?
I believe so.
I can't follow who we're talking about. It might be Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, it is Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, his value plummeted this year. And I would, I would be fine with a. Oh, my God. This RB class is not a 9. This RB class is like a 2. So you got to work on that analogy, Ed. But as for Rachaad White, what do you think he looks like at the NFL level?
That's tough because I like the frame. I like the receiving production, but I don't see him as a lead back. I don't see any of these guys really as a lead back besides like the top 2.
Yeah, I think Hall
maybe
is a lead
Walker.
Back. Walker.
Down.
Yeah.
Walker could be that.
I think Hall is a workhorse. Walker could lead a committee, probably splitting with like a Nyheim Hines type. And Spiller has the upside to lead a committee, but I don't expect him to do that. Or I expect him to come in as on the wrong side of a committee. And then everyone else I see as a backup as the wrong side of a committee for their careers.
There's one we're going to disagree with on that.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. We might get to that next.
Well, okay, so I think that Hall and Walker are probably going to go in the first 2 rounds. And then I don't think any other running backs go in round 1 and round 2. Isaiah Spiller, I would expect to go somewhere in round 3. What about Rachaad White? Do you think he's likely to go in round 3? It seems like it to me.
It seems with the mocks I've been seeing and the tools I've been using, it seems like fringe round 3, mid round 3 kind of guy.
I mean, I think there could be 4 to 5 running backs selected in round 3 this year, actually. I expect there to be a lot of running backs in round 3. Because I think there's really only 2 worth the first 2 rounds, but Spiller and White are 2 I could see in round 3. I could see him, I mean, he's kind of a smaller, he's not that small. I mean, I don't know. What kind of landing spots would you, let's say you can put him anywhere in round 3. You have all of round 3 to choose from. Where would you choose?
I mean, everywhere in round 3 for Rachaad White.
Yeah, anywhere. You can put him anywhere.
I mean, I feel like it's a cop-out to always say Buffalo, but I feel like Buffalo over Devin Singletary. I know there's other pieces there, but I feel like that's the best chance he has to try and win a job.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Buffalo are to running back.
I feel like they will too, but like you said, I could put him anywhere, and like if I put him in Atlanta, I feel like Cordell Patterson will absorb a lot of the work anyway.
You want to know where I would put him? Actually, put him in Arizona.
I thought about that.
Edmonds role. Put him in Arizona at 87th overall to play the Chase Edmonds role.
There's someone I want more in Arizona. That's why I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I'm teasing this up.
We can't always. Now, I can tell you where I don't want him to go, and his value would just be annihilated, but I think it's possible, is 75 to Denver. And then his value's gone. Because he's not a threat to Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is 100 times better. And I think they do need a compliment.
They do need a compliment.
It would be a little higher than I'd want them to spend. It wouldn't be great for Javonte's value, but that is a very bad landing spot for Rachaad White. That's 71 to Chicago. It's another one that's not great. There's no guarantee he lands in a good landing spot, so we'll see. But yeah, something like Arizona would be somewhere that I would I would consider.
Mm-hmm.
Mind it. But anyway, let's move on to the next guy.
Yep, Zamir White out of Georgia. We got both the Georgia guys up here next. You have Zamir White at 5.
Yeah.
So I want you to go first again because I have some thoughts of what I've watched.
Yeah, well, he has. So I've never written about Zamir White, and he's someone. He shared, like all Georgia backs, he shared the backfield with the next guy, James Cook, that we're going to talk about. And I don't know. I wasn't impressed. Not impressed with Zamir White. He's fine. He's just okay. He'll play in the NFL. He'll have a role on a team. ACL tears might have zapped a little bit of Zamir White. I think there was an elite running back in Zamir White, but I'm not sure that there still is.
Mm-hmm. So the big problem I had when I turned on the tape is that it seems like he tries to beat everyone with speed. I watched the Clemson game. What was it? Start of the season they played. He had the speed. The speed was there. The burst was there. But like he just every time he was trying to beat someone, it looked like he just tried to outrun him. Like he didn't have like any moves.
It's probably the ACL tears. It's probably the ACL tears.
Probably. You're probably right.
One on each knee.
Yeah, he relied fully on speed, and I don't know if that's going to work at the next level.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either. So, like, good straight line runner, but
I just think that NFL teams are going to see someone in Zamir White that, like, they can trust to give some carries. And I think that's nice. He doesn't have a lot of upside. There isn't much to say about Zamir White, really. I think with Zamir White, and even with Rachaad White, I mean, Zamir White, I think we're talking about someone who could come in as backup. I mean, Zamir White could get stuck on the Giants or stuck in Denver like Rachaad White, I said. Or he could get stuck as the third back in Baltimore at 76 overall. Mm-hmm. I do think Zamir White is picked in the 3rd round. I do think Zamir White goes on day. Usually about 6 running backs go on day 1 and day 2. I don't think this is going to be the year where there's 3. So I think there's going to be 6 running backs picked in the first 3 rounds. Like there are usually just 4 of them are going to be in round 3. And I do expect Zamir White to be one of them. Rachaad White, I'm actually less confident is going to be picked on day 2 than Zamir White. Because Zamir White went to a bigger school. It's just more likely that they're going to call his name. But I'm not overly interested. He's probably going to be another player that I'm good. I'm good on him.
Yeah,
chance on receiver.
We have to bring up his limited receiving work as well. 3 years, 17 catches in college. It's not ideal.
Really bad, yeah. It's really bad.
Yeah, I didn't see any standout traits. like we said, we wish them all the best, but we got to evaluate what we see.
I didn't see anything special from Zamir White. All right, what about the teammate, James Cook? What about Cook?
I flipped on the tape. I was a really big fan of James Cook.
You were? Okay, good, because again, I was not impressed. So tell me what impressed you. What was good?
Well, what impressed me is, of course, his athletic skills. I found that he was, a little more agile than Zamir White. Not the same kind of speed, but in that same tier, just a little less. Now you disagree with me? That's fair, but
I agree with you. It's just that he managed 230 carries in like. Am I reading this correctly? 230 carries in 46 games? That's awful. That's 5 carries a game. No, couldn't get on the field. So it's great that he looked good on a play here and a play there, but there are plenty of players who look good on a play here and a play there.
See, I'm taking into account that they flexed him as a wide receiver. I don't think he's like, gonna get 15 to 20 touches through the tackles every game. Like,
it's not like he had that many receptions, though. I mean, you're talking about 67 in his college career. It's not that many.
It's not that many, but what I saw with the hands on film was good enough to suggest that he's going to be a plus receiver at the position in the NFL, which is what the NFL values nowadays.
No, I mean, I could see that. I get it. I don't think, to me, James Cook and Zamir White are pretty even. I'd rather have Zamir White because I think he's going to go higher in the NFL draft. Personally, I'm more confident.
At this point, that's a fair assessment with where we are. But
I mean, Zamir White, if we look at the two in comparables, Zamir White played ahead of James Cook the whole time. And I guess that doesn't always, tell you that Zamir White is going to be better. He wasn't as efficient and he didn't get any work in the passing game, but he got many, many more carries. And I don't know. I think James Cook is more of just like could be more of a gadget player. I don't know. Is he really even going to be is he going to be a running back who gets like a lot of carries? I
don't think he's going to be that because he was getting jet sweeps. Maybe
you have occasionally a Tariq Cohen or a James White RB1 season. They happen. A Duke Johnson season. They happen in the NFL. But it's like one of those a year. Typically, to be an RB1 at running back, you need to carry the ball. It's difficult to do it without that. I guess you had Cordell Patterson, but even Cordell Patterson got a significant amount of carries.
He did.
So I just don't know if James Cook can do that. I agree that he probably has more upside than Zamir White. The problem is that I think Zamir White is going to be picked on day 2 and James Cook won't. So if that changes, if they're in the same. So I have Rachaad White. So I would say Breece Hall is tier 1. There's no tier 2. Kenneth Walker is tier 3. Isaiah Spiller is tier 4. And then tier 5 includes Rachaad White, includes Zamir White, and includes James Cook. And I would say that's probably it. I have those 3 players in tier 5.
That's fair. I think I have less in tier 5. I think I don't have Zamir White in that tier. I think I have him lower, but I agree with you on the other 2 for tier 5.
I actually think you're very wrong about that. You have the wrong White. Zamir White is the injury away guy. Rachaad White can't handle it. Rachaad White can't handle work. Rachaad White's not going to be a starter. He's not going to be a lead, an 80% back ever. Whereas Zamir White could totally do it. He just isn't very good. But Zamir White can handle the touches, I believe. Whereas Rachaad White, I don't see that. Zamir White actually reminds me of someone who would be likely to end up being a handcuff, a 3rd-round handcuff. So those sometimes end up having value. I mean, depends on how it works out. Singletary is greater than Rachaad White. Yeah, I think so. I think Devin Singletary is better than Rachaad White. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Unless you're I'm fine with maybe other quarterbacks, depending on where they land in this class. But yeah, other than Hall, I want to use them on running back. And Kenneth Walker is still up in the air to me. That one depends on the draft capital and landing spot. JT for 101, 23 first, and Freiermuth, 12 super flex, 10 in premium. I feel like that's too much for almost any player. You want to pay that for JT? Because I don't really want to do that.
I don't really either. I'm just going to go out on a leg here and assume that the 23 first is also yours. That is 101 for this year. I can't give away an early first as well.
Even if you take 101 with the with Breece Hall, I'd probably rather have Hall, a 23 first, and Freiermuth. And that's not even including the fact that I have the option to choose Willis. So yeah, I'll take the package side there.
Or trade out of it and acquire even more assets. There's a lot of options. It gives you more flexibility.
Yeah. But essentially, I'm going to be looking for an excuse to get back to this class. And, you know, for me, this is a tier break of Rachaad White, Zamir White, and James Cook. And then I have 2 guys in the next tier. Or maybe 2 to 3 guys in the next tier, depending on how you want to see it. But these guys, I'm going to be looking for any excuse to take a wide receiver over them. I'm not going to reach this year. I'm just not interested. These guys are just not good. They're just not good. So I'm not going to, it's not like last year where they were, or even the year before, where I was looking for, like, I liked Trey Sermon as a prospect. I was wrong about that, but I thought he was a good prospect. Whereas this year, I do not think Rachaad White is a good prospect at all. I don't think Zamir White is good. I don't think James Cook is good. So I'm going to be looking for any excuse to push the wide receivers up and push these guys down this year. So hopefully a lot of wide receivers get picked in the first round. I will take any first round wide receiver, no matter the landing spot, over any of these guys, no matter the landing spot. Put it that way. Any first round wide receiver over any of these guys.
I agree, but let's get into it. We got another Alabama back. We were talking about a couple earlier. Brian Robinson.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Not good.
You wrote an article on him. I'll let you dive in first, but the age is a big.
Not good. The same concerns here with some of the other ones, like Rachaad White. Brian Robinson produced really nothing until 2021 when he was 22 against against younger competition. He didn't produce anything until then, and he was great. 5.5 yards a carry only. I mean, 14 touchdowns on 271 carries playing at Alabama is not that good, actually. I'd expect more. And then receiving production was there, but it wasn't great. I mean, when I watched his film, I thought it was like he was just there. He was all they had. Everyone else on the team must have sucked because he was there. He existed. But the offense ran through Bryce Young. I was like, ooh, who's that quarterback? Who's the quarterback? That guy. That's the guy I want to draft. That quarterback. The running back just was there. Brian Robinson existed. He was on the field. I was like, I don't think I saw anything special. He was just there. So, but an NFL team will be fine with a player who's just there. He won't lose you the game. He's there. He'll take carries. He might catch a couple of balls. He'll never get on the highlight reel. He'll just exist. So that's why I have him even lower than the last tier. But I'm not impressed with Brian Robinson at all.
Bryce Young really, really stood out watching that film. I agree. I'm excited for next year, but I it's tough when you're going to be a 23-year-old running back prospect and maybe not even get day 2 capital.
Yeah, for Brian Robinson, really, if he doesn't get day 2 capital, I'll have zero interest whatsoever. If he does, then any running back who gets day 2 capital is probably going to be a second-round rookie pick at least. So then I'll even in the late second. So then I'll have some interest, but I'm not running to pick Brian Robinson. He is the definition of boring. He does nothing interesting. I mean, it doesn't really sound like we disagree on this one very much.
I don't think we disagree. I think we can move on. I think it all depends on draft capital.
He has less flaws than Rachaad White, Zamir White, and James Cook as a player. He's the most pro-ready of those 4, but he has no upside to me. None. So it's all about how NFL teams value that, really. But I think we can move on. There's not much to say about Brian Robinson. He just exists.
So let's get into a recent riser, Dameon Pierce out of Florida. I had to dig a little bit. I didn't have to dig, but there's not much film on this guy because he's a recent riser. He only had 100 carries about.
In DLF's ADP, he's a recent riser in the draft. It's looking like he has a good shot to get day 2 draft capital. He's one of, and if he gets it, I'm starting to come in because I like that he had playing at Florida, not Alabama. He had 13 touchdowns on 100 carries. Now, let's just remember, Brian Robinson, 14 rushing touchdowns on 271 carries. He's playing at Florida, 13 touchdowns on 100 carries. I like that. I mean, that's great. And, he's not ancient, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, Dameon Pierce, February 2000. So he's a year younger than Brian Robinson. And I did like that he had some receiving production, but the efficiency was only really good in the last year, and he never really had a lot of carries. So there are also concerns with Dameon Pierce, but he's getting a lot of hype recently. This is more that the hype is moving him up than anything he actually did. The hype recently is moving him up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I watched the Bama game. Bama absolutely, with all of their NFL athletes, they did their Alabama thing with the stopping him in the backfield multiple times. But his Georgia film was actually pretty decent. So that's not a step down from Alabama quite as much, but I think it's a tough between the tackles runner. I mean, what do you think he is at the next level? Goal line back?
Could be, yeah. But he was he was very touchdown efficient on a low number of carries and a low number of yards. So that screams goal line back. A lot of touchdowns, not a lot of yards, not a lot of carries. So he could be a goal line thumper. I mean, and then, those guys, if you score the touchdowns, if there are other injuries, you could have a chance at work. But he's someone I think, now we're starting to get into the guys. Brian Robinson was in this tier too, and Dameon Pierce. These are guys that are coming in as backups. They're coming in as backups. They could get 3rd round draft capital, but I would think either of those two would fit in. Brian Robinson maybe a little better, but Dameon Pierce also would fit in decently 90th to Tennessee, like a long-term backup to Derrick Henry, to more so Brian Robinson, but Dameon Pierce could fit in there too. And then also 91 Tampa Bay, 91st overall. Either could work there as a complement and then a potential successor to Leonard Fournette, maybe, or a successor to the next player. And then Dameon Pierce as well, could work at 89 to Buffalo if they didn't pick anyone else to take the Zach Moss role, because Zach Moss is obviously not it. But there are a lot of spots, but these either of them, 79 to the Chargers, either of them, Pierce or Robinson. A boring guy to take a lot of carries or a goal line specific back is the Chargers want one of those two things. Either someone to absorb a lot of carries or someone to take goal line carries away from Eckler. They want one of those. And Brian Robinson fits one mold and Dameon Pierce fits the other. So there are some decent landing spots. But again, Dameon Pierce, I don't think is ever going to be much. I'm going to look for any excuse not to pick him. I'm not a big fan. Yeah. But I thought he was going to be more of a sleeper, but it seems like people have woken up.
People have caught on to the hype. And, we just talked about, we'll get to the question first.
Eckler and AJ Brown or JT?
I think I'm okay. I'm okay with paying that for JT.
Me too, but it's very close.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm cool with that. So we just talked about a recent riser. So now we have to transition to the other side of the table, and we're going to go with the recent faller, Kyren Williams.
I mean, when this process started, Kyren Williams was my clear RB4 in this class behind the big 3. Now I have him at 9. And I mean, I don't really know what to say. I think his ADP is being propped by name recognition and kind of my ranking by name recognition. He's only this high because he recognizes his name, but he's probably still running his 40. And I wrote an article about him, and his measurables were bad. I actually thought his film was okay. He was okay. He was better than measurables say.
Yes, exactly. He looked faster on film than the 40 for sure.
but his efficiency was putrid in the 2 years where he got a lot of carries. So I'm fine with Kyren Williams, but again, I think Kyren Williams has fallen out of day 2 in the NFL draft, and I think we're talking about someone who's going somewhere to be a backup.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Nyheim Hines, but Nyheim Hines was better athletically.
Yeah, so Kyren Williams is more of a running back than Nyheim Hines.
Yeah, even though he was a high school wide receiver, and there was some impressive route running on tape. That was for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he can catch the ball. I don't know. I mean, there are places he could go. I think he's the kind of player who could go to the Giants in the 4th round, maybe just put a running back on the team. He could be the pass catching complement to Derrick Henry if they wait until the 4th round to take one, or even the 5th. So he could be someone who fills a pass catching role in Kansas City if they wait a while on running back and take one in the 4th or 5th round, or they don't have a 5th, but 4th round. If they pick him in the 4th round. So there are some decent landing spots, but it's also possible he ends up somewhere horrible like Baltimore or Vegas, and he's just dead in the water.
That testing was. I hope whoever consulted him to test, I hope they worked out their differences, because that is.
Yeah, I mean, he could end up in Cincinnati behind Mixon. Yeah,
that's true.
We're talking about someone could be a backup.
Yes, his size is a concern as well at 5'9".
But he's one of the last really important players, just because he was such a big name early in the process. But there's not too much to say about him. I don't think he gets day 2 capital. And then if you don't get day 2 capital, you have to have a path to playing. Otherwise, I have no interest in you.
I think that's good enough for Kyren Williams. You want to move on to Tyler Algier?
Yeah, Tyler Algier. It's the last player I wrote an article about, and he was he was so much higher earlier on in the process, but it just seems like the NFL, and he didn't have a good combine. It just seems like people have soured on him. The NFL has soured on him. I'm not sure Tyler Algier is even a lock to be drafted in the 4th or the 5th round. He could be a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. He's someone I liked. I actually liked what I saw. If he's going to be a 6th round pick, I like him for a 6th round pick. He'll be I think he would be a good value for an NFL team in the 5th or the 6th round. I was not in on him when I thought he was going to be a day 2 pick and a mid-2nd round rookie pick. I was not so interested at that price. But if he's going to come in, if I can get him in the 4th round of my rookie draft, I'll be interested. But I didn't see much that impressed me with Tyler Algier.
Yeah, I think that covers it well. I didn't.
None of these guys, I think we'll have more to talk about with the deeper wide receivers, but not too much about Tyler Algier.
No, I think we can move on to someone. Oh, no, that's next. I got ahead of myself there. I scrolled down a little too far. Next up, we have Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati. And, I saw some things on film that I liked, but nothing, overly.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like Kyren Williams was the start of a new tier, and then Tyler Algier is in this tier. Jerome Ford is in this tier. Again, I'm not super interested in Jerome Ford.
I'm not either, but some positive. He looked really light in his feet when I watched him on tape. He had that good acceleration, good speed. It wasn't, a world-class breaking athlete like JT, but
I just feel like Jerome Ford is the same thing. It's 1 year of production, old. It's I'm just not that interested. There's not much to say about him, honestly. I don't think we even have to spend any more time on him. He's not going to get drafted on day 2. So
yeah, we would need that capital as well. So heading into the next tier, it looks like we have.
Yeah, well, I broke it up in a weird way because I would have the first guy that I listed here with the other guys, Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong, I would put in the tier with Kyren Williams, Tyler Algier, Jerome Ford, and Strong would be my final guy in that tier.
That's fair enough. So he's been a favorite sleeper of sorts.
Yeah, he's really risen up the ranks recently. I hear a lot of people talking about Pierre Strong. He was totally off the ADP radar at the start of the process, but he's starting to move into being a solid 3rd round pick in rookie drafts. He's not going to get day 2 capital, but he's someone who I have my eye on, who I'm going to be very interested in the later rounds of rookie drafts. But he's honestly the last guy I even feel like is worth our time. The other guys, after Pierre Strong, it's the end of a tier. And, we can... I'll touch on some of the notes we took on the other guys right as we're closing out. But essentially, the way I see it is that the draft, and tell me how this sounds to you, is essentially I have Hall alone in tier 1, then Kenneth Walker in tier 3. There's no one in tier 2. Isaiah Spiller I have alone in tier 4. Then I have tier 5, Rashad White, Zamir White, James Cook, and then I guess Brian Robinson and Dameon Pierce. For me, that's kind of all one tier in tier 5. And then tier 6 is Kyron Williams, Tyler Algier, Jerome Ford, and Pierre Strong. And then tier 7 is everyone else is just tier 7. Everyone else is just pretty irrelevant to me after Pierre Strong. Well, that's how I have it.
Yeah, I just want to go over some film notes that I saw in Pierre Strong, which I don't know. There was some glaring flaws that I feel like I have to talk about. His pass pro needs a lot of work.
Cool though. I don't expect him to be good in pass pro.
That's fair. I mean, also, it was pointed out in the YouTube comments of the film that I watched. He just could not make people miss. Like every time he'd go down on first contact, like it was some guys you don't notice it. You know what I mean?
But we know that.
Yeah,
that's a weakness of like the reason that NFL teams would be interested in him is the blazing speed.
Yeah,
he is not a perfect player, but if you have that line runner. Yeah, if you have the blazing speed and you can get behind the defense, then, you have upside. I mean, Matt Breida made a career out of that. Raheem Mostert, same thing.
Yeah, he has capable hands. Like, I'd say middle of the pack of this class,
Wouldn't you love it if Pierre Strong ended up on the Niners? I feel like he would fit in decent there.
I agree.
I kind of like that landing spot, actually.
I'm here for it.
But yeah, I do kind of like him as a sleeper, but he's not a sleeper anymore. He's rising up the board. But yeah, in order to avoid making the show too long, I put 4 other guys on the show sheet. Tyler Batty, Kevin Harris, who I've heard talked about. I've heard Tyler Batty a lot, or Beatty, I don't know how you pronounce that. Then Kevin Harris, Donovan Knight, and Kennedy Brooks were the ones I put on the show sheet. Just because I've heard Kevin Harris, Donovan Knight, and Kennedy Brooks talked about a lot. Tyler Batty was just kind of there in my rankings, so I included him, even though I haven't heard much about him. But is there anything about any of those guys that you specifically want to add?
I mean, I want to talk about Kevin Harris a little bit because I know we said he lost work from 2020 and 2021. That's because he had fluid in his back. He had a sack of fluid, so he had to get it removed. The end of season tape against UNC, it's on YouTube. If you want to get a feel for this guy, it's definitely his best tape this past year. I was pretty impressed. Good between the tackles, runner, decent speed, although the drops are a problem.
Yeah. Now, he's someone who's gotten a lot of discussion lately. So he's someone I'm going to keep an eye on in the later rounds of rookie drafts. Tyler Batty's just kind of there. Another player's just kind of there. I'm just not overly interested.
I picked out his best film to watch on receiving work. I mean, I don't think I got much more to say. He had 10 receptions in the game I watched. He was flexed out at wide receiver. Maybe he's asked to do that in the NFL. Maybe that gave him a little boost in value.
Maybe. That would help.
That would help.
Yeah, that would help. But I don't. He might not even be drafted. And then Zonovan Knight and Kennedy Brooks. Kennedy Brooks, is just, he played at Oklahoma, so he has a little bit of attention. But there are just so many red flags with Kennedy Brooks. I mean, he was in college for 5 years, didn't play for 2 of them. He has some off-the-field issues as well, so NFL teams are less likely to take a chance on him. There's just nothing about Kennedy Brooks. I don't see it. But people are talking about him, so I put him on the sheet.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't pop off the screen. Short yard back, probably in the league.
So old. He's older than Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
So forget about Kennedy Brooks. And then Zonovan Knight, he's young. I like that. He's an April 2001 birthday. So if he does hit, he'll have a lot of time to accumulate value, but that's the only thing I like about him. So not much else really to say about him, but if he gets drafted, he'll be worth a rookie pick. But that's it.
Yep.
So we've come to the bottom of the show sheet. So that's it for this disastrous rookie running back class. Do you have anything to say? Has your opinion on the running backs changed after the show, or is it still as bad as I said it would be?
It's probably the same going in as it was going out. I kind of agree with you there. Like I said, we're different on like 1, 2, maybe 3 guys. We're kind of in agreement on most of these people here. So
yeah, we're mostly in agreement, really. I think I hate Isaiah Spiller a little less than you do. And then we have Zamir White and James Cook flipped, but other than that, not a lot of differences. I think most of these guys are irrelevant. So, yeah. Well, anyway, I appreciate everyone who the chat was very active at the beginning. I totally understand that this ended up being a long drag of a show, but I appreciate anyone who's still watching. Leave me a message in the chat. Our next year's second round picks better than this year? Yes.
Yes,
they are.
2,000,000% yes.
The wide receiver depth in this class is not bad, but in general, yes.
There's going to be some top line talent falling into the top end of the second next year, and it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, that's not bad, and I'm more comfortable with a true 2 QB and a 10 team. But anyway, plug anything you're working on.
I mean, you could find me down here. I got the hand right this time at @RyanPros_FF. And like I said, I'm going to start doing rookie profiles as soon as these guys get drafted in 2-3 weeks? 3 weeks? Yeah, 3 weeks. Time flies. But yeah, that's what I got. And of course, I'm going to be on here. I am so excited. The guest list is absolutely stacked with all your favorite names.
It is very stacked.
I'm not going to spoil anything. We've teased enough on here. We've teased enough.
Don't spoil it. But I have wake me up in 2023.
Same.
I have a show for the NFL draft, and we'll be live for all of day 1 and day 2 the whole time. So you can tune into this channel and watch the show. And yeah, as for my stuff, I mean, you guys know where to find me, but yes, we're live streaming the draft. That's what we're saying. You can find me on Twitter there at TylerFFCreator. You can find all my written work at Dynasty League Football. You can find all of my personal YouTube stuff on this channel, our show, plus any of my quick reactions that I do solo. My Patreon shows are also hosted on this channel, but they're unlisted, so you can only see them if you subscribe to my Patreon. Any tier gets those extra shows. And then yeah, that's it. We'll have our live stream during the NFL draft. But next week, so here's the plan. Next week, on the 18th, we will do wide receivers. And then on the 25th, we will do a pre-draft mock draft. And then we'll have our show on the 28th and the 29th during the draft. And then we'll come back on the Monday. It's going to be a lot, but it's going to be fun. On that Monday, we'll come back and do a post-rookie draft mock. The same thing we did on the 25th. Just with landing spots. So we'll redo the mock draft a week later, post draft, to compare it to pre-draft.
I'd love to compare it side by side. Same.
Yeah, I think that's what we should do. I think that's what we're going to do. So we'll have a lot. We'll have a mock draft, then 2 days of live streams, and then another mock draft. So after we do wide receivers next week, we have a lot to do. So many shows, 4 shows in 8 days to look forward to. But anyway, I appreciate everyone for watching, listening. If you're on the podcast feed listening, and give us a like and follow there. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, leave a comment. That really helps. And also hit the subscribe button. If it's red, make sure that it says subscribe and you click it. But anyway, peace.
See yous.